We give our children toys to comfort them in the dark, a plush companion to hold, a plastic guardian to sit on the shelf and keep the monsters away. Sometimes, however, the object meant to chase away the nightmares is the exact thing that is creating them. Look inside a forgotten antique shop like this one. Among the crowded shelves and decades of dust sit artifacts with histories entirely their own. Many of these objects have absorbed the darkest impulses of their previous owners. People browse these very shelves looking for a rescue. They see a cracked porcelain face or a threadbare stuffed animal and feel a pang of pity. Bringing the object into the home often means inviting a predator across the threshold. To understand how this trap works, we are going to trace the history of 3 specific artifacts. By looking at a leprechaun, a porcelain doll, and a clown, we can map the exact psychological and historical triggers that wake these entities up. These are active traps, disguised as playtime. They sit perfectly still, gathering dust, waiting patiently for a specific human vulnerability to set the curse in motion. This is the landscape of the North Georgia mountains. Long before the California rush, this region was gripped by gold fever. Out of that frenzy emerged our first artifact, a leprechaun doll tied to a stretch of land known as Irish Mountain. Local folklore suggests a clan of leprechauns settled here, eventually losing control of their gold mine to a woman named Caddy Kelly. When she died in 1906, the claim to the land didn't die with her. It mutated into a terrible condition. The legend dictates that reopening the lost mine requires a steep toll. The earth demands the blood sacrifice of one of Caddy Kelly's female descendants. This grave marker anchors the myth in physical history. According to the legend, Caddy Kelly's dying words were, "Blood for gold," a phrase that tethers the entity to this soil. When a modern family moved into the old Kelly estate, they unknowingly brought that folklore to life. The leprechaun doll, left waiting on the porch, functioned as the physical vessel for the curse. It executed brutal violence against the home's occupants to fulfill the ancient contract. The doll itself had no inherent malice. It simply operated as a physical executor, carrying out a forgotten local legend with terrifying precision. Look at the glass eyes of this antique German piece. Her name is Patty. She belongs to Abby, a young woman who suffered severe burns in a horrific fire. While most people abandoned Abby during her grueling recovery, the doll remained by her side. To Abby, Patty was a comforting presence. To the doll, their shared trauma forged a permanent, deeply isolating bond. Patty viewed Abby's scars as proof that they belonged only to each other. The delicate balance broke down when Abby began healing. She attended a convention, started wearing makeup again, and entered a romantic relationship with a man named Jeremy. To the doll, Jeremy represented a direct threat to her exclusive hold on Abby. Our first artifact operated on historical greed. This one runs on a completely different fuel. Patty's malice stems from severe abandonment issues, turning an innocent emotional attachment into a toxic, volatile obsession. When Abby decided she no longer needed her porcelain companion, the doll forced the issue. Patty viciously attacked Jeremy, scarring him to ensure he would leave. She guaranteed Abby would remain isolated and dependent on her oldest friend. This porcelain shell absorbed a young woman's deepest insecurities and reflected them back with lethal force. It weaponized possessive trauma against an innocent outsider. Our final artifact arrived in the hands of a terrified 6-year-old boy named Jason. Plagued by nightmares of a monster under his bed, his mother purchased an antique clown doll named Giggles from a local shop to cure his fear of the dark. Clowns are culturally programmed to be protectors of smiles. By giving Giggles to Jason, the mother tasked the doll with a singular mission: be an absolute guardian of the child's happiness and keep the monsters away. The real monster in Jason's room was his abusive father, a presence far more menacing than any imaginary creature under the bed. The father regularly threatened the child with physical harm and declared his intention to throw the clown into the trash. Giggles assessed the environment and correctly identified the source of the boy's unhappiness. The doll reinterpreted its protective mission, bypassing the imaginary threats and locking on to the real-world danger. Executing its mission to protect Jason's smile, the clown confronted the father. The doll murdered the abusive man in the dark, delivering a horrific, permanent form of absolute protection. The child's wish for safety created a deadly trap. The clown executed a twisted form of human justice, proving that extreme innocence sometimes relies on extreme, unhinged violence to survive. Across the mountains of Georgia, the lonely bedroom of a burn survivor, and the dark halls of an abusive home, a clear pattern emerges. Whether triggered by greed, jealousy, or a corrupted desire for protection, the entity inside the toy is always activated by a deeply human flaw. These objects serve as blank emotional slates, absorbing the darkest psychic energy of their environment until they reach a breaking point. They act as sponges for the trauma and malice that surrounds them. This makes every thrift store find and estate sale purchase a massive gamble. When you buy an antique plaything, you have no way of knowing what kinds of trauma, anger, or ancient contracts are stitched into its fabric. Bringing a cursed toy home invites a dormant tragedy to wake up in your living room. You are effectively providing a physical body for a haunting that has been waiting decades for a host. The next time you find yourself wandering the dusty aisles of an antique shop looking for a special friend, consider the object's history. The toy likely has no interest in play. It is simply waiting to conclude your story on its own violent terms.